Again, everyone, this is April Baldwin, a senior history major from Birmingham, Alabama, and a student in this semester's Social Work 300 class, Section 1. I am here to present my final research for the semester. The name of my case study was Voting Attitudes Among Tuskegee University Students, and the reason that I chose this was many different things. 2015 is the 50th anniversary of the Selma Montgomery March, which resulted in the signing of and passing of the Voting Rights Act. And we know that the act has kind of come under fire with the removal of Section 5 and other things, but we know that voting is still extremely important in American culture today. Another reason that I chose this is that there's a growing sentiment I know around where people aren't voting the way that you would think that Americans would, seeing as how important voting is to the culture that we have in America. Voting is the reason that the democracy was favored, a form of government from the founding fathers over a monarchy and other things like that. It's been a right that has been denied to a group of Americans for many, many years until 1965 with the passing of the Voting Rights Act. And then it's now something that it seems kind of lackadaisical. A lot of people aren't participating in the political process as should be. But, that's neither here nor there. But I just wanted to figure out the different attitudes from different Tuskegee students about how they feel about voting. I asked many different questions in my survey. Copy of that. I used the methodology that I used for this particular study was 25 paper surveys in addition to about 41 online surveys that I collected from different Tuskegee students around campus. Originally, my control variable was going to be the region from the country that students were from, but seeing as the region that I initially wanted to say was going to have the highest percentage of voters come from, only one person from that region was able to fill out my survey, so I'm having to kind of go back and finesse my hypothesis. But some example of a few questions that I asked in my survey was what was their political affiliation, or if they even affiliated with a certain political party. Does your political affiliation actually influence your vote? How likely is it to influence your vote? Do you always vote for the same people or the people who have the same political affiliation as you? Certain things like that. And, of course, the biggest question that I had on mine was voting allows the citizens' voice to be heard. And there are two sets of questions that I had that were really instrumental in my findings as to why I feel like is just another catalyst as to why people do not vote. And these are the questions that I featured here in my poster presentation. So the first of those questions was, which ethnic group and gender do you feel are the most likely to vote? So 50.6% of the respondents thought that European Americans, Caucasians, whites to some, would be the ethnic group that is most likely to vote. And it seems that, females, 52.5% of respondents thought that males would be the most likely gender to vote. So it seems that from Tuskegee University students that white males are the most likely group of people to go and vote. And the way that I feel that this is representative, or why this matters, or why these students feel like that, is because white males are the typical person that you're going to see involved in the political process, or involved in politics in general, or involved in elections, running for various things. So that is that specific respondent category. A lot of the respondents actually responded with African American male, which I found very interesting, because in many of the articles that I did research on, and just many of hearing sentiments throughout the community, especially being African American and throughout the African American community, it seems that African American men are less likely, one of the least likely people to actually go out and vote. So that was very interesting that Tuskegee University students felt like they were amongst some of the highest to actually go out and vote. So the other variable that I chose to list on this chart was a difference between who voted in their state elections and who voted in the general election, which is the presidential election. So a whopping 59.3% of respondents actually went out and voted in the presidential election. Now, in my survey, 59% of them went out and voted in the general election. Only 20.9 did not vote in the general election, but were actually eligible to vote because they were registered. Now, the other, let's see, about 30% or so, no, about 20 more percent. 20 more percent did not vote in that election because they are not registered to vote. So either they currently aren't registered to vote or they weren't registered at the time of voting. And the same thing goes for this 20.9%. Some of these people were freshmen who were not of age to vote in the last presidential election in 2012, but they are now registered to vote. Let's see. The other thing that I saw was that there's a big disparity between who actually voted in the presidential election and who voted in their state elections, more local elections. So in the last state election that was held, the question was asked, were you able to go out and vote in there? Now, you see we have 59% that are registered to vote that went out and voted in the last presidential election, whereas only 36% of the voters who were able to vote voted in their last state election, and 46.5% of those same people who were eligible to vote in both the last election and this past presidential election and their last state election did not go out and vote. So to me, that says that many people feel that their voice will be heard on a larger scale rather than on a smaller scale when it comes to state elections. They would rather their voice be heard when it comes to the congressmen, the senators, those who make those big laws and big changes, it seems, in our community, rather than those who make those things that directly affect our community. So that is really the biggest, those are the two most interesting things that I found from my research. I actually really enjoyed doing this research because voting is something that I hold near and dear to my heart. Because I am a history major, I have a lot of interest in the voting rights era and what it took for African Americans to gain that right and why are we not exercising that right now. I take it personally to vote every single chance that I can, regardless of whether it's a state election, that is general election, voting on campus, it doesn't matter. I'm going to exercise my right to vote because I know there are so many people who came before me who made the way and made it possible for me to have that right. So this is why I picked this research and I enjoyed doing it. And there will be more details about what I found in the research report. Thank you.